Starting off our list, number 10 is a scene from Borat, which is not surprising at all. It probably wouldn't shock you to find out that the movie resulted in a number of different lawsuits, mostly by participants claiming they were misled about the nature and intent of the film. But one situation became a big legal case, and it all stemmed from the one frat boy scene. The one where Borat hangs out with those 3 drunk frat boys who end up making racist remarks. Turns out 2 of the boys featured in the scenes were students of the University of South Carolina. Justin Say and Christopher Rotunda ended up suing the producers for defamation, saying that the film impacted their ability to secure jobs. They also alleged that they were given the alcohol on set and were told that the footage would never be shown in the US. Ultimately, their lawyers were trying to get them cut out of the film's DVD release, but the lawsuit ended up getting dismissed in February 2007. Hopefully people will understand that it was just a movie and it doesn't reflect who they are as people. Unless it does, then that's a you issue, because you did that movie, got drunk, and said racist remarks. So like. In at number 9 is The Hangover Part 2, another movie that received several lawsuits. One because a stuntman was injured, but that was settled out of court, and another one when Louis Vuitton tried to sue them for using a fake handbag in one scene, but they were also unsuccessful at their lawsuit. There was one lawsuit that was more bizarre than those, and it had to do with a tattoo. No one could forget the hilarious scene in the movie when Stu wakes up with Mike Tyson's tattoo plastered across the side of his face. Apparently this scene ruffled the feathers of the tattoo artist who originally created the ink for Tyson. Victor Whitmill ended up suing production, saying that the design was copyrighted and that Warner Brothers never asked for permission to use it. But the studio fired back and said that a tattoo resides permanently on a human's face and cannot be included in a copyright law. The artist wanted to prevent the film from being released, but he was rejected. At the end of the lawsuit, Warner Brothers settled with him for a sum of money that has not been disclosed. I tried because I'm just as nosy. And they made minor changes to digitally alter the tattoo in the scenes. Cruising into number 8 is Pixar animation. It all started with a lamp. You know the lamp that has been Pixar's mascot since 1986? It bounces on screen before the movie and then jumps on the letter I in Pixar? Well, the lamp is actually owned by a Norwegian lamp manufacturing company called Luxo. Throughout Pixar's years using the same lamp design, Luxo never had any issue. I mean, they probably enjoyed the free publicity. John Lasseter had even made a short film about the lamp back in 1986 called Luxo Jr., and they had no problem with it. But when Pixar started to sell a replica of their Luxo Jr. lamp character with a special Blu-ray DVD of the film Up, they sued. They didn't like that Pixar was technically using their design and making sales without permission. A few months into the lawsuit, Disney and Luxo reached a settlement and the lawsuit was withdrawn. For the time being, Luxo claims they have no problems when it comes to artistic renditions of their iconic lamp. All this because Disney wanted to use a lamp as their opening credits scene, and it just so happened to look like a lamp that already exists. Coming into the number 7 spot is from the movie 10 Things I Hate About Life. Now this one is a strange exception for our list because it technically will have to come from the movie trailer, because that is the only thing that is left from the movie following the lawsuit. We all know that the movie 10 Things I Hate About You was an immediate success when it hit theaters in 1999, so 13 years later in 2012, the original director Gil Junger announced he was working on part 2. 10 Things I Hate About Life was about 2 suicidal people who meet and fall in love, and Evan Rachel Wood was supposed to star as the lead. So where did everything go wrong? Well, filming began in December 2012 and was shut down a few months later, which is kinda weird because if you watch the trailer, they have a lot of footage. According to the people at In Tandem, shooting stopped because Evan Rachel Wood got pregnant, and after she gave birth in July 2013, she refused to come back to film. A year later, the production company filed a $30 million lawsuit against the actress, demanding a trial and a jury. Bro, it's not that serious. But her side of the story is different, and she told the Hollywood Reporter that she was perfectly willing to finish the movie and said it came to an end because the production company ran out of money. She also said that they never paid her for what she was owed from the scenes that she did film. The case was eventually dropped and the movie never came out, obviously, but you can still find the trailer on YouTube, and it looked good. Like, I'm actually really bummed. I love Evan Rachel Wood and I would have loved to see that, so you suck. Sliding into number 6 is a scene from American Hustle that caused a whole lot of unnecessary drama. This has to be the most ridiculous one on our list today. A lawsuit came from a microwave. The movie received 10 Oscar nominations, but it was also handed a lawsuit due to a scene that focused on the use of a microwave. It's the scene when Rosalind tells her husband Irving that she reads an article by Paul Brodeur claiming that microwaves remove the nutrition from food. Brodeur is an actual science writer for The New Yorker, and he has in fact published books on the apparent inherent dangers of microwave radiation. Yet for some reason he sued the film's production team, saying that he never suggested that microwaves reduce the nutrition of the food and that they used a false claim to his work. He sued for $1 million in libel damages, saying that the false claim in the movie had tainted his reputation. But in the end, the lawsuit was dismissed because the court decided that Jennifer Lawrence's performance in that scene would not be taken seriously by anyone anyways. And they are probably right, because she was a riot. Halfway through the list at number 5 is one from Avatar. The director of the wildly successful franchise, James Cameron, faced some heat after he brought us his vision using both his mind and technology. His vision skyrocketed to the top of the box office and became the second highest grossing movie of all time. But the real question is, was it actually his vision? After the first scene we saw that introduced us to the Pandora world, an artist came forward saying the movie copied some of his artwork. Roger Dean sued James Cameron for $50 million, claiming that in the Pandora design he clearly copied key pieces from his art collection. The court agreed that the movie may have been influenced by his work, but they ended up ruling in Avatar's favor. Here we are at number 4 with The Devil's Advocate. The famous 1997 movie starring Al Pacino has gone down in cinema history, but so did the lawsuit it had against the production team. It all came from a movie scene in which we see that Al Pacino's character has some human sculptures in his apartment. One important scene in the movie features them, so it's not like they were just lost in the background somewhere. An artist named Frederick Hart thought they were similar to the piece of his called Ex Nihilo. His piece was built in Washington, D.C.'s Episcopal National Cathedral, so he teamed up with the cathedral and they both sued Warner Brothers. They ended up coming to an agreement, and Warner Brothers edited the offending scene for the home video release. They edited out the sculptures and put a sticker on the VHS copy saying that there is no relation to the artwork. Alright guys, we are in the third spot with a horror movie, The Cabin in the Woods, although some people will argue if this was a horror movie or a comedy. This movie somehow ended with a $10 million lawsuit after an author claimed that the movie featured things from his novel, aka stole. Peter Gallagher wrote a book in 2006 called The Little White Trip, A Night in the Pines, and I guess it has some similarities to the film. The novel tells the story of 5 heroes who check out this cabin called the Brinkley House. 2 of the characters' names are Jules and Dura, and the group does some drinking and flirting before they get attacked by this evil presence. But in the end there is a plot twist and it all turns out to be part of a reality show, which is a pretty cool plot. Alright, so there are some similarities to the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it tells the story of a group of students who visit a cabin in the woods and they also get attacked by an evil presence after they drink and do some weird flirting stuff. 2 of the female leads are named Julie and Dana, which is similar, and in the end it's revealed that the students are part of a secret government ritual. The author sued the director, Drew Goddard, Mutant Enemy Productions, and Lionsgate for $10 million, but the judge dismissed the case in 2015. The judge's final statement was, "While the 2 works share a similar premise, that premise is unprotectable. The concept of young people venturing off to such locations and being murdered by some evil force is common in horror films." That is a fact. Taking over the number 2 spot is Ghostland. The indie horror film came out in 2018 and was hit with a big lawsuit after a horrible on-set accident that took place during one of the scenes. The 19-year-old actress Taylor Hickson played a young version of the character Vera and ended up with a disfigured face after filming a scene. In the scene, her character was banging on a glass window. She was instructed to pound harder on the glass by the director and it shattered in her face, causing her to fall through the window. She was rushed to the hospital and had to receive 70 stitches in her face alone. She was left with permanent scarring on her face and sued the production team, claiming that she's lost work due to her injuries. She also said that they didn't take the basic steps to create a safe filming environment, like using safety glass or stunt doubles. The lawsuit is still ongoing, but the producers were insensitive when it comes to marketing the movie, and they used a picture of a girl with a fractured face similar to hers. In our number 1 spot is a scene from the movie Ari Pupil. This one is definitely a lot heavier than the other ones on our list, so here's your warning. The 1998 psychological thriller features a scene where a 16-year-old high school student, Todd, imagines his showering classmates as Jewish prisoners in the chamber of a camp. Pretty intense stuff. Just 2 weeks after the scene was filmed in California's Elliott Middle School, a 14-year-old movie extra came forward and filed a lawsuit claiming that he was told to strip naked for the scene, but he refused to do so. Not long after that, 2 other boys, aged 16 and 17, made similar claims, one admitting that they actually did what they were told. All 3 boys ended up filing a lawsuit saying that the experience traumatized them, and they filed for damages against the filmmakers for emotional distress, invasion of privacy, and negligence. Unfortunately, no charges were pressed as there wasn't enough evidence in the case. The director Bryan Singer ended up reshooting the scene with adult actors instead. Beginning the countdown, list number 10 is Rocky. The 1976 film has gone down in history for telling the story of Rocky Balboa, a small-time boxer who gets the chance to fight a heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed. The screenwriter Sylvester Stallone was first inspired by a real-life boxing match between Chuck Wepner and Muhammad Ali. It probably inspired a lot of people, which is why it's surprising to learn that he actually got sued for it. In 2003, Chuck Wepner sued Stallone, claiming that his fight scene was improperly used to promote the Rocky movies and other related products for commercial purposes. Stallone never denied the fact that he based the entire movie on Chuck's actual 1975 boxing match. However, he still sued him for $15 million, but both parties ended up settling outside of court for a disclosed sum. Stallone wanted to make it up to him by paying tribute in his sequel, Rocky II, by casting Chuck to be a boxer in it. But unfortunately, he failed the drug test and wasn't able to do it. Coming to the number 9 spot is The Basketball Diaries. True Leonardo DiCaprio fans will know that he starred in the 1995 movie before we ever saw him as Jack in Titanic. The Basketball Diaries tells the story of a high school basketball player growing up in Manhattan in the 60s, but it leads to a downward spiral of crime, addiction, homelessness, and the movie has a lot of shocking scenes that try to capture the realism of an addiction, but one scene went a little further than the rest. It's the scene when Leo's character fantasizes about shooting up his classmates. In 1997, a shooting at Heath High School occurred, and a lawyer named Jack Thompson sued the film in 1999 for causing the attack to occur. He was an activist who would crusade against violent media, and he felt that the movie scene was the motive behind the real-life shooting. I'm thinking that the judge realized how ridiculous and far-fetched that claim was, because the case ended up getting dismissed in 2001. Moving on to the number 8 spot is a scene from Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. In the 6th and final movie of the series, we see Alice riding her motorcycle across the post-apocalyptic zombie wasteland, and while filming the scene, the stunt woman named Olivia Jackson received life-threatening injuries. While filming the stunt, her motorcycle collided with a camera crane which had been lowered way too early. She was left in a medically induced coma for 17 days, and her injuries included crushed facial bones, severed neck artery, broken ribs, a disfigured face, torn fingers, nerve damage in her spinal cord, and the amputation of her whole left arm. For obvious reasons, she filed a lawsuit against the producers, including the director himself, Paul Anderson. She claimed that she was asked to do the stunt last minute with minimal preparation time, and that they didn't have good weather that day. It was also reported that she was misinformed about her medical coverage, and that it didn't cover the majority of her injuries like they said that it would. The case has been ongoing since 2015, but recently it was revealed that she's having her medical costs fully covered, which was a total of $248,256. And at number 7 is Drive. Now this one is kind of a special exception to our list, because it's actually the movie trailer that ended them with a lawsuit, which is a compilation of scenes, or just one really long one. In October 2011, a woman from Michigan named Sarah Deming filed a lawsuit against the Imogene Novi Movie Theater and Film District Distribution for making a misleading trailer. Apparently. In her claim, she wrote, "The film distributor promoted Drive as very similar to the Fast and Furious or similar series of movies." She was upset that the movie was actually a methodical art film that didn't have much driving in it at all, let alone race car action. Sarah went after statutory damages under the Michigan's Consumer Protection Act and wanted the case certified as a class action lawsuit. The judge ended up siding with the defendants, thank God, and on October 15th, 2013, the court rejected her appeal. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Here we are, number 6 with 12 Monkeys. The 1995 movie tells the story of a convict named James Cole who decides to volunteer for a mission. He has to travel back in time in order to learn about the reason behind a brutal Holocaust. During one scene in the movie, actor Bruce Willis gets interrogated by this weird sphere object that somehow is able to examine his weaknesses. It was kinda cool and creepy at the same time, but apparently this device was already a thing, and an architect named Lebbeus Woods thought it was similar to his neo-mechanical tower chamber piece, so he sued. And he sued successfully. Universal Pictures had to pay him a hefty sum and also give credit to him in the film. Guaranteed the director wishes he could go back and replace the prop with literally any other shape or object. Like anything else would have done. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Captain Phillips. The 2013 movie tells the real heroic story of Captain Richard Phillips. His container ship was attacked in 2009 by Somali pirates on the way to Kenya, and he had to find a way to negotiate and survive, as well as save his crew. While watching the movie, most people would agree that it painted the captain as someone who tried everything in his power to prevent the hijacking. A scene from the movie helps paint that picture for us. Apparently, the crew members of the actual ship involved in the real shipwreck saw things differently. They claim claim that Captain Phillips knowingly went into pirate-infested waters in order to save time and money, rather than taking a different route and staying clear from pirates. They also said he had numerous warning signs that urged he should go further away from the African coastline. They ended up filing a lawsuit against the shipping company, Waterman Steamship Corporation, alleging that the Navy and crew members were the true heroes against the hijackers, not Captain Phillips. The lawsuit claimed monetary damages for their physical and emotional injuries during the awful attack. They were able to file a lawsuit against them because the company did not tell the American crew members that they were traveling in pirate-infested waters. They should have been told prior to being hired, and they also alleged that Captain Phillips did not conduct any pirate attack safety drills. Who would have guessed that a movie scene would trigger a lawsuit like that? Coming into number 4 is Knowing. Nicolas Cage took on the lead role in the 2009 movie, which told the story of a teacher who comes across a time capsule that makes him believe he has the power to change the chain of events that are about to happen. In the movie, we get a look at a crazy piece of technology that can actually predict the locations of every natural disaster. Pretty cool, right? But there's just one little problem, and that is that the time capsule already exists. Well, that type of technology. Turns out it's been in development by a tech company called Global Findability, and they call it Integrated Information Processing System for Geospatial Media. They ended up suing Summit Entertainment and filed a patent infringement against them. Their claim states that the geospatial entity object code was used in the film, which goes against their patent for use without permission. Coming in at number 3 is a scene from Couples Retreat. You may have forgotten about the 2009 rom-com movie, but there is a scene in the movie that probably stuck with you. And coincidentally enough, it is the scene that resulted in a lawsuit. It's the one where the character Joey using a pamphlet that features a former model, Irina Krupnik. The model ended up filing a $10 million lawsuit against them for invasion of privacy and misappropriation of likeness. She claimed that she signed a contract for the release of the photo a decade before the movie was made. She was actually paid $1,500 for the release, but said she never agreed for it to be used as any kind of pornographic context. The judge ended up throwing out the case and said that she signed a complete release on the picture 10 years prior, which means it could be used in any context because it was released. He also pointed out that she was posing in a bikini, so she would have to be naive to the fact that it could be used as a sexualized or erotic image. And for the record, she's also done nude photo shoots in her past career, which the court thought was hypocritical. Which it kind of is. Cruising into number 2 spot is the house scene in The Conjuring. Alright, I'd probably be lying if I said just one house scene. It's definitely plural, seeing as basically the whole movie takes place in the house. For those of you who might not know, the movie is based on a true story of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who investigated the real-life haunting in the Perron family house. But the house they filmed at still exists, and the people who currently live there have sued Warner Brothers over the movie. Gerald Helfrich and Norma Sutcliffe claim that since the release of the movie, people have been harassing them and vandalizing their property. Unfortunately for them, they didn't get much success from their lawsuit, but they are still pleading their case in several online pieces. The movie scenes do show detailed hauntings of their house, and apparently people now know the layout of their home, and it's become an invasion of privacy and danger to them. But like, why did you let them film there then? Or if you knew that it was filmed there, why'd you move in? Know what I'm saying? Not saying it's your fault, but like, it's kinda your fault. Beginning the list at number 10 is Twilight Zone the movie. This lawsuit came from the filming of one scene, not the actual final product, and it's a tragedy that is unnerving, so if you have a weak stomach, well, I warned you. It happened while filming a scene in which Vic Morrow's character is trying to save 2 children. The tragedy came from a horrific accident that was caused by a mixture of a dangerously low-flying helicopter and a technology malfunction of some sort. While filming the scene, the helicopter spiraled out of control and landed on Vic and the 2 children. One child was decapitated and the other one was just completely crushed. The worst part about it was they were filming late at night and the child actors were working illegally because it went against child labor law regulations. Obviously they were faced with a lawsuit. It was the first time in Hollywood that a director had charges of deaths on a movie set. Vic Morrow's family settled the lawsuit within a year, but the trials for the children's deaths did not end until 1987, 4 years after the movie came out. Up next, number 9 is coming from The Dark Knight. Director Christopher Nolan and Warner Brothers were hit with an unexpected lawsuit from Batman. No, not the superhero himself, but an ancient city in southeastern Turkey. Apparently the movie scenes that featured Batman, which is basically everything, ruffled some feathers of the mayor of Batman, Turkey. I think it's so cool that there's a place called Batman. Anyways, in his lawsuit he claimed that Warner Brothers and Nolan had used their city's name without permission and the scenes involving the hero are illegal. In his statement he said, "There's only one #1 Batman in the world. The American producers used the name of our city without informing us. The mayor also claimed that Hollywood executives made it impossible for his city to set up businesses abroad because of it. He also went as far as blaming Warner Brothers for several unsolved murder cases in their town, as well as a high female suicide rate in their city. How does that even make sense? He cited that the psychological impact of the movie caused those tragedies. Thankfully, the lawsuit didn't get very far, which is not surprising, seeing as it's basically the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of ridiculous things in these lists. Filling in the #8 spot is Frozen. The now iconic Disney movie was slammed with a lawsuit after some lady tried to claim that the entire movie was written about her. Some scenes in particular matched her own personal storyline, and she was quick to file a claim about it. Who watches an animated fantasy musical with talking snowmen and thinks, hey, this movie is about me? Apparently a woman named Isabella Tanakumi. She sued Frozen for $250 million for supposedly stealing the movie from her autobiography. The movie is actually based around the old fable called The Snow Queen, which was written by Hans Christian Andersen in 1844. But that did not matter to Isabella, and it didn't stop her from suing and making a report filled with 18 different similarity points between her life story and the animated movie. Some of those similarities were that the stories are about two sisters, they both take place on snowy mountains, and both of them experience some kind of sister trauma. You can probably guess that nothing came from this ridiculous lawsuit, and it melted quicker than a snowman on a hot summer's day. See what I did there? I made a snowman joke! Like hola! In the #7 spot is actually a few scenes from the horror movie Happy Death Day. Well, I don't think we can even call it a horror movie. I think it was supposed to be, but it turned out to be like a comedy in my opinion. And that's me being nice, because if you want the truth, the movie sucked, don't watch it. But that is not the point. The point is that Universal found themselves in a lawsuit for multiple scenes involving the masked killer. Fans started to share a side-by-side image of the masked killer, saying that it is the same design as King Cake Baby, the real mascot from the New Orleans Pelican School. The creator of the mascot, Jonathan Berticelli, sued Universal, claiming they used the mascot without permission. Not only was he seeking half of the existing profits from the two current films, but he also wanted 50% of future proceeds. The lawsuit is still ongoing, but in the court of social media, it is a divided split. Some fans think the resemblance is uncanny, while others believe it's not close enough to the original. What do you guys think? Look at the picture and tell me in the comments. In at #6 is 2001: A Space Odyssey. This lawsuit happened between two huge companies, and it was actually a movie scene that was used as evidence in the case, but then it just caused even more problems. Many years after the movie came out, you might have heard that Apple sued Samsung for copying its design of the iPad with their Samsung Galaxy tablet. Samsung put up an argument and said that they couldn't be sued for stealing the iPad design because they got the idea from somewhere else. So, who did they steal the idea from? Stanley Kubrick. In court, Samsung defended themselves with a still image from Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. In the still clip, it shows two astronauts eating and using tablet computers that look similar to iPads that Apple didn't invent until almost 30 years later. So they claim that there is no way they could have stolen the idea from Apple, and said that Apple stole the idea from the movie scene. But the lawsuit was too difficult to charge someone because tablet computers were seen in a variety of different sci-fi movies after that. The judge ended up ruling out the film as proof, but did allow Samsung to use the Fiddler and compact tablets, which were invented before the iPad. Halfway through the list, at #5 is The Hobbit. Every movie scene from this movie landed in this lawsuit, and two studios went face to face in the battle. The Weinstein brothers faced off against Warner Brothers in a $75 million lawsuit. Warner Brothers claimed that the Weinstein sold the rights of The Hobbit to New Line Cinema 15 years ago and only agreed to share royalties with the first film of the series. But the Weinsteins will argue that they are owed royalties from all Hobbit films because of the substantial amount that they got from the first one. They feel that because The Hobbit is only one book but is turned into multiple films, it's enough proof that they should be compensated for all of them. In their argument, they called Warner Brothers ungrateful and greedy. I mean, the first installment made over $1 billion, so I would want in on that action too, for all of them. Here we are at #4 with the movie Monster-in-Law, another time when someone wants to say that a movie scene replicates their own personal life experience. While watching the 2005 movie, a woman was upset to see that some of Jennifer Lopez's scenes were oddly close to her own experience. Isn't that the point? Like, aren't movies supposed to be relatable to the audience? No offense, lady, but I am sure there are a lot of people who can say that they've had a rough experience with their parents-in-law. But this woman named Sherry Gilbert believed that the movie was stealing directly from her. Apparently, she had written a screenplay about her relationship with her own mother-in-law back in 1998 and said that the similarities between the two are uncanny. She sued Jennifer Lopez, Jane Fonda, and others that were involved in the making of the movie. When Warner Brothers was hit with the lawsuit, they didn't even take it too seriously. How could you? Their lawyers made it clear that an annoying mother-in-law character was a very common concept for a film and in life. In our third spot is one that came from the movie The Wolf of Wall Street. The movie tells the real-life story of Jordan Belfort, who was convicted of fraud after cheating his way up to the top in stockbroking. A former Stratton Oakman general counsel, Andrew Green, was personified in the movie as Nicky, aka Rugrat. After watching some of the scenes that his persona is portrayed, he sued Paramount Pictures saying they didn't have permission and that the portrayal has ruined his real-life business. The movie is based on real events, but of course is dramatized. He particularly wasn't a big fan of the scene when his character is partying with at a bachelor party with silver trays containing illegal drugs. The lawsuit was ongoing for 4 years until it finally came to resolution in 2018. The court ruled in Paramount's favor, saying that the character facts in the movie have a different name, nickname, employment history, personal history, and criminal history. They stated that no real person was portrayed or defamed. So, Paramount took the win on this one. Moving on to number 2 is Straight Outta Compton. The movie was directed by F. Gary Gray and showed the rise of the groundbreaking hip-hop group NWA. If you've seen the movie, you know that the villain in the story is the manager, Jerry Heller, who was a sleazeball accused of profiting off the band and cheating them out of their own hard-earned money. That's how the movie depicts his character anyways. But naturally, these movie scenes did not sit well with the real Heller. In 2015, he filed a lawsuit against Gray, Universal, Legendary Pictures, and everyone involved in the rap group. He demanded $110 million, claiming that the movie was, I quote, littered with false statements that were meant to ridicule and lower him in the opinion of the community and to deter persons from associating or dealing with him. In June 2016, the judge allowed the case to move forward because the movie included a lot of the manager's own memoirs. The judge also pointed out that the movie implied that Heller tried to discourage Ice Cube from hiring a lawyer to review a business contract, but there was actually no evidence that it actually happened. However, the lawsuit didn't get very far because sadly, Jerry Heller passed away just a few months later. Alright you guys, we have made it to number 1. We have a lawsuit from Django Unchained. After watching the movie, screenwriters came after Quentin Tarantino, accusing him of theft. In December 2015, Oscar Colvin Jr. and his son Torrance J. Colvin filed a lawsuit against him, the Weinstein Company, and Columbia Pictures. They claimed that they ripped the movie plot straight from their screenplay that they had written called Freedom. In their claim, they point out some movie scenes that are similar to their writings. But it wasn't just like a he said she said thing. Apparently the Colvins had proof that they shopped their screenplay because they had registered it with the Writers Guild of America and showed it to agencies like CAA and William Morris. They even said that Tarantino's name was brought up on different occasions as a possible director, so somewhere along the way he would have had to have seen the screenplay. They were suing for an unknown number, but we do know that it was hundreds of millions. However, Tarantino was the last man standing and the lawsuit was dismissed in January 2017.